Get ready, college football fans, for the best college football show you will ever see and hear. The following is a presentation of Snowman Digital Media as well as the SDM Sports Network.
All right, here we go. 4th and 18 for the Tigers. Here's your ball game. Nick Marshall stands in, steps up, going to throw downfield, just a home run ball, and it is tipped up. And Lewis got it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Touchdown Auburn. Touchdown Auburn. A miracle in Jordan Hare. A miracle in Jordan Hare. 73 yards, and the Tigers, with 25 seconds to go, lead 43-38. Look over there. 3 wide outs at the top of the picture. Stewart with time. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Touchdown. Caught by Westbrook for a touchdown. Incredible. Newstock ready. Has the ball. Rolls to the right, looking downfield, sets up and heaves it towards the right side of the end zone. It's going to be jump ball, taken in the air. Oh! It's caught! Touchdown! The Wildcats win! Get it! Caught the deflected pass! Unbelievable!
He's going to go back to throw the ball. Sets up, looks, throws toward the corner of the end zone. It is intercepted! Intercepted! They're not down the ball! 7 to 35 to 40! Kenny Wheaton is going to score! Kenny Wheaton is going to score! 20! Touchdown! Touchdown! Kenny Wheaton on the interception!
There we go. Here's your ball game, folks, as Rudy takes the snap. He drops straight back, has some time. Now he scrambles away from one hit. Looks, uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there. Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown! 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 Boston College! He did it! He did it! Rudy did it! He got Phelan in the end zone! Touchdown!
Hail Flutie, you just can't. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the premiere edition of the AB College Football Show. I'm the B portion. I'm Brian Snow. The A portion is off to my right. His name is Artie Source, the man who suggested this, and here we are. Good evening, Artie. How are you?
Fantastic, Brian. The Snowman, I'm looking forward to it. It seems like it's been 8 months of waiting for college football, and here it is, Thursday night. We're going to start off with the Backyard Brawl, the renewal of a classic series for many, many years, Brian.
Yes, indeed. That, of course, is Pittsburgh and West Virginia. We'll get to our picks in just a moment. What we're going to do is over time, we're going to fashion this to about an hour. We're just doing a premiere episode tonight. We're going to get our picks in. But as I told you over the weekend, how about those Northwestern Wildcats?
Surprised me. I'll let you know. I mean, hey, betting against Fitzgerald in Ireland was pretty stupid on my behalf. But you know, I kind of bought the stuff coming out of Lincoln, and you know, I kind of figured that Scott Frost was in a position where he had to come out well. And you know, they played well, but they made some bonehead plays. You know, when you're up by 11 in the third quarter and you go for an onside kick, I got to question that strategy. Also, earlier in the second quarter, they had a chance, again, up by 11, and they fumble inside the 10-yard line. So those two crucial mistakes, which reminded me of their 4-9 season last year, they did the same thing. Penalties at the wrong time, mistakes. You can't do that and be a great college football team. Although I don't think either one of those two teams are going to be in the end result in the Big Ten, you know, conference races.
No, don't speak too soon. You should know better now than betting against Pat Fitzgerald and my Northwestern Wildcats. We'll talk about them throughout.
Well, they're intelligent. They're like Stanford kids, Brian. They're like Stanford kids.
Yes.
You never know when they want to show up. Hey, even in my era when we were at USC, Stanford at times would come in and, you know, they'd be 24, 27-point underdogs, and they would get together and play the game of their lives.
And they would pull off a miracle.
Because they have that ability. When you have that kind of intelligence and you get motivated, anything can happen. They definitely know what they're doing.
Absolutely. And I've been a Northwestern fan since 1995, and one of my favorite players is now their head coach, Pat Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald's one of the reasons. Steve Schnurr, Darnell Autry. Who doesn't remember Darnell Autry from that 95 team? Because no one expected them to do anything, and they got all the way to the Rose Bowl. So Northwestern's 1-0. Nebraska is 0-1.
That was Barnett against John Robinson.
Gary Barnett gets John Robinson.
Gary Barnett, what a great football coach. I met him when we were watching the highlights, the Westbrook pass, that he caught from Cordell Stewart. I was at that game covering it for KOA Radio in Denver many, many years ago. And what an athletic team that was. I got to see Miami come to town the next year and play against, that was the Warren Sapp Miami National Championship team with Ed Reed. And they played that Colorado team at Folsom Field. And there was one play where Cordell rolled out and he was in trouble and the guys were really coming at him. And he went straight for the sideline. So I'm on the sideline in my suit. And I kind of leaned back and catch him, Brian. And we rolled over and got up. And he goes, "Wow, you look like you know what you were doing." I said,
"Oh, man, I love it." Speaking of Folsom Field, there was one clip I wanted to put in, but I ran out of time. Hagan to Flanagan from 1989. You don't see a quarterback pitch the ball 40 yards downfield, as Pat Hayton said on that call with Jim Nantz. That was, of course, for CBS in 1989. I wanted to work that in. I'll find a way to work that in. All right. We got week 0 out. We got week 0 out of the way, which is probably why this is going to be a shorter show. The premiere is always short because of week 0. But let's get to it. Let's get to our picks, man. And we start with the revival of the Backyard Brawl. What's the spread? Who's favored? And what's the over/under? Those are the three things.
The spread has actually vacillated a little bit. It opened at 7, then it went to 7.5. Pitt had the money, and now the late money's been coming in on West Virginia. 2 old USC quarterbacks, great USC quarterbacks who were both freshmen of the year. Yep. You've got Keaton Slovis for Pittsburgh and JT Daniels, the old USC. Went to Georgia, and now he's at West Virginia playing for his old offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell, who we all remember from Leach years down at Texas Tech.
Down at Texas Tech,
The thing that really intrigues me about this game is I think it's going to be a shootout. So I kind of like the over, and if I was forced to bet the game, I would look around and try to get 6.5 at one place and 7.5 at the other and hope it ends right at 7.
I would go over 2. Because these two are going to – I wouldn't be surprised if it winds up like a 52-51 kind of game. Because
that's what I'm feeling. I really am, because I'm how do you prepare, too. Really? I mean, it's really tough to prepare for a team in the first game. You've got a lot of excitement. Acrisure Stadium, it gets hard to say that after saying Heinz Field for all these years,
It's high. I can't say
we'll go with that. I like that.
It's Heinz Field.
Just for me, I would say definitely lean toward the over and don't go crazy on the game. But I look at it as a 38-28, 42, 42-40 game, something of that nature.
Yep. That's how I'm looking at it. And this will be one of our first shootouts of the year. And then, of course, Western Kentucky decides to hang 38 on Austin Peay on Saturday. I caught part of that broadcast. But yeah, that's our first one. How do you folks feel? We're setting up our social media. I'll be doing that throughout the course of the week, and I want everybody to chime in and have fun.
Well, just so you know, Brian, I don't know if you're aware of this, and I mean, I know you go by man. The last 22 years, I've done this pretty religiously, and I shoot between 58 and 63%, which is pretty damn good.
Okay.
I've got a couple of my inside guys in Vegas, Guido and Gigi. I've known them. They're in their 80s. They've done this for probably 65 years. And they always give me some good insights. Not so good last week, though, because they both like Nebraska.
They told you to go with Nebraska, didn't they?
And I give them a little bit of a break because, who knew that the head coach was going to make a couple of really interesting moves like that. That's the way football goes. Nobody goes undefeated. We just try to look at it as logically as we can. And and then of course tomorrow night you've got a team that has a great head coach. Franklin for Penn State. They're going to roll into West Lafayette to take on the Purdue Boilermakers. And what people don't realize is Franklin's at 11-11 in his last 2 seasons. And I got to say one thing. This game scares me if you're a Penn State fan, because Purdue has Ian O'Connell, which is a gunslinger quarterback coming back. And everybody says, Penn State's got a loaded team. But I'll tell you what, I look at the numbers on this one, and Penn State's on the road giving a 3.5. Again, I look at this and I see Purdue with an offense that can put points up, and I see Penn State with the ability to do the same thing. Now, the difference in the game may come down to Manny Diaz, who was the head coach at Miami, is now the defensive coordinator for the Penn State Nittany Lions. If he can find a way to shut down, the offense for Purdue, which very few people have been able to do, again, I would lean toward Penn State just because of the athletic factor. But I also think it's going to be a shootout, and that one's going to be on Fox Sports at 8:00. And the over and under is 54. So
I draw.
What does that do for you?
It's going to be 54.
That's a tough one, isn't
it? It is, and they set it right at that number with two contrasting styles. Because for years, Penn State has leaned on their defense. Purdue has leaned on their offense. Anybody remember Drew Brees? And look, Drew Brees wrecked my Northwestern Wildcats Rose Bowl dream in 2000, okay? But
over the years, they called Purdue the cradle of quarterbacks.
Yes,
and we lost a great Purdue quarterback this week. We lost Lenny Dawson, but you got Greasy, Gary Danielson. You've had some great quarterbacks come out of that program at Purdue. A lot of people don't know that the legendary coach and broadcaster Hank Stram used to coach at Purdue. And so, yes, I go back to Mike Phipps, watching him run into the old horseshoe at Ohio State back in the 60s. That was my first example. And that was a rough one when Ohio State beat them 63-0 on the old Intangi. But if I had to bet that game, I would really seriously, I would look at Penn State, something like 27-21. I would probably stay with the under on that. I don't like betting the under because the old axiom.
I don't like
betting the over. You always got a chance. If you bet the under, you can be done midway through the third quarter.
And this is the early part of the college football season. This is the early part of the season. So if you bet the under on the early part, I say weeks 1 through 6, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
I do agree.
Boy, I got to bet. I got to go over. I'm taking the surefire safe bet and going over.
There you go.
Now,
I like it.
Speaking of over, let's go to Saturday, and you got this one,
Georgia and Oregon. Now that one is going to be something special. Oregon's got a lot of talent on that ball club. They got a coach, Dan Lanning, who was the defensive coordinator for the defending national champions, took over for Mario Cristobal, who went to his alma mater at Miami. And now you've got, the best recruiter in college football, Kirby Smart, who finally pays off. Year 5, he wins the national title. He beats his mentor. Right. And this game is 17 points. It's a CBS Sports 3:30 afternoon Eastern time. That nice little slot with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson.
That basic CBS Sports time. And it's
which the Big Ten just paid billions of dollars to try to steal that from from CBS. So it's going to be very interesting.
Derek Medea.
But here's my view on this game. Honestly, I think Oregon's got talent. Now, whether they could stay there, we went to Ohio State a couple years ago and beat the Buckeyes, but can they control the ball? I see this game with 52 being the over. Georgia favored by 17. Georgia has trouble scoring points early in the season. So, I picked 17 only because I'm a Pac-12 guy.
Yeah.
I don't feel real comfortable about that.
So are you going over or under?
I got to go over in that game too.
I got.
I have a funny feeling when college football has their splashy week one. I watch the clock very carefully, and for a lot of years, college football they didn't complete a pass, and then they wouldn't restart the clock. Lately, they kind of wait till the guys get in the huddle a little bit, they get set, and then they start the clock.
Then they start the clock.
And I've noticed that it's different in every conference. So, it's tough to get a grip on what the referees are doing this year in that first week. I couldn't get anything decisively last week from what they were doing. But I would have to take the over only because it's 52, and that's not a lot of points in a college football game.
Especially during week
and half
one.
the Georgia defense is in the NFL now too, Brian.
Yes. That's the biggest reason I'd go over. That's the biggest reason I'd go over. I mean, if Oregon can go to Ohio State and on a 3rd and 1, CJ Verdell rips off a 77-yard touchdown, then that should tell you right then and there anything can happen. Anything can happen. But when you got
and believe me, they're going to be pumped up because you know what? These are great athletes, and they've played in some big games over the years. And you got a chance to come out as an underdog with nothing really to lose, okay, with a coach that knows the other team as well as anybody would ever know them, okay? He knows their tendencies. He went against that offense every day. So, I mean, this is my theory on that game. I could be way off, but I'm going to have to take Oregon, and I'm going to take the points, and I'm going over.
You know what? I'm going to take Georgia. Just because they're defending national champions, I'm also going to take the points, and I'm also going over. So the only thing that's different between us is who we're picking. But you got 100,000 people that are going to crowd that joint, especially when they see Georgia run out. Oh boy, oh boy,
yeah. And let's be, for all intents and purposes, even though they're in Atlanta, it's a home game for Georgia.
Come on.
I bet it's got to be 85-15.
Even the Georgia Tech game that they play in Atlanta each year is a home game for Georgia. All right, it doesn't matter if it's at Sanford Stadium or
I think they're playing on Monday night, aren't they? Don't they have Clemson coming in town?
They have Clemson coming in.
Would you like to open up with Clemson coming off a down season, Brian?
Hell no. Hell no.
And their quarterback, DJ Ugalele, my favorite name in college football.
You know what? The only person I heard pronounce that name right is Joe Tessitore, and that's because he was forced to during the COVID season. I think it's Uiagalelei or something like that.
Yeah, I call it Ugalele, and I'm sticking to it.
Ugalele. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You going Oregon? You going Oregon or Georgia? That's a 3:30 kickoff on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Now, Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Who set this game up?
The powers that come on, the powers that be, and it's in the horseshoe.
Yes, and I got to tell you, C.J. Stroud can spin it with the best of them. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I know Notre Dame has a couple of good athletes at quarterback, and they play some great defense. And Freeman's going to be one hell of a coach as it goes along here. But talk about a baptism of fire.
Stroud.
Yeah,
but they're not.
I mean, you got Ohio State opened up 6 months. 6 months ago, you could have got Notre Dame, Ohio State laying 13.5. It's all the way up to 17.5. The over and under opened at 54. It's now 59.5. And, you know, I got to tell you, I'm tempted at the 17 and the bullet to take Notre Dame. But that's like really, that's, you know, rolling through the graveyard, man. I mean, does Ohio State can come out with those two wide receivers? You saw what that kid did in the Rose Bowl last year. I mean, I think he had 370 yards on 17 catches and 4 touchdowns. Yes. And there's 2 other receivers that are just as good as him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and a running back that's, first team All-American, Travion. So, I mean, this is going to be something special. I know Notre Dame, much like Northwestern, has sharp kids. They're not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. But,
no. They're going to be overwhelmed by
I would have to take the Irish and the
people
points in this one. And only because I think there's a lot of pressure on Ohio State. And again, I think Notre Dame comes in. They're not expected to win. And Notre Dame in that situation, I'm not saying they're going to win the ball game. Okay.
Right.
But I think they can keep it within 17 points is what I see.
All I say is good luck to that. That's all I got to say is good luck to that. Because
so you're seeing like 50, 58, 24, something like that?
Yep, I'm seeing over, and I'm laying the point. I'm going with a home team in the Horseshoe with about 102,000 there, all dressed in scarlet and gray, and I'm laying the points.
Well, on my other show, I did the same thing. I did my Mike Mayock. I took Ohio State and laid the points.
I'm taking Ohio State, and I'm laying the points. I mean, I know a lot of Notre Dame fans, a lot of them, and they're so excited about this game. But I'm going, are you kidding?
What are they excited about, Brian?
I'm like, what are you excited about? You have to go to the Horseshoe and play a PO'd Ohio State team that lost to Michigan.
Yeah.
You got to face that. And then they hung 48 points on Utah, and we'll get to Utah in a moment. Then they hung 48 points on Utah.
Which was a great defense. I mean, they have three guys that got drafted to the NFL. And Cameron Rising can spin it. He had a great – if he doesn't get hurt, that was a great Rose Bowl. I mean –
if he doesn't get hurt, we're still playing that game.
Thank you. I think it might be a 14th overtime.
It might have been overtime after overtime after. It would have been one of those 73-65 kind of games.
Here's an interesting point that blew my mind. When did Kyle Whittingham start recruiting Florida? He has 7 kids on his roster that are Florida athletes, and he's going there to play Billy Napier in his first game in the Swamp in Gainesville, and
another 100,000.
Utah's favored by 2.5 against an SEC power, and it's going to be on ESPN. It's an evening game, 7:00 Eastern time.
7:00 Paul.
Yeah, and 2.5 favorite for Utah, over under 51. And these are two teams that can rock 'em, sock 'em on defense. So this is a tough one for me over under wise. I kind of like Utah, but I'm also afraid of the fact that you're playing an SEC team at home in the humidity of Gainesville, the Swamp.
With 100,000 people in there in the Swamp.
It's going to be a little different. Yeah. That's a tough one.
I'm going to go Utah. And I hate doing this on early in the college football season, but considering the fact that you and I both study college football very closely and very intently, you got the Pac-12 champs going to the SEC. I got to go under. I'll lay the points, but I got to go under. I can't.
I've heard some wonderful things about this young quarterback that Florida has.
Yes,
in terms of athletic ability. So I'm gonna go against you on this one, even though I believe Utah. I picked them 38-28 on my other show, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the 2.5. I would probably bet the money line, try to get them at Florida at plus 135 at home, and I'm gonna probably go with the under with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, this is what we're going to do each week. We're going to entertain y'all with our 5 best picks, great storylines, and college football is just getting started.
Did you hear what happened today, Bri?
Talk to me.
They actually got together all the university presidents, and they basically decided that if they could get together and have a unanimous decision next year, they're going to go ahead and expand to 12-team playoff. But it has to be unanimous. Otherwise, they wait till 2026. So I hopefully they'll be unanimous because I think it
better be unanimous.
Wouldn't that be unbelievable? I mean,
it better be unanimous.
I just feel like every year, a team like a Cincinnati last year, it was great to see them get in there. But every couple of years, you're going to see a team that deserves to play in that, and I was hoping they'd go to 8, but 12 would even be better. That would really make it, and and they could still use the bowl games like they use the bowl games to
Yes.
to do the lower setting games. So I'm excited about that. Who do you like to win it all? Here we are on the cusp of September. We're less than 6 hours from September.
Yes.
Who's going to clear when the dust clears in January? Who do you see is going to be sitting there at the mountaintop of college football?
My next 2 words to answer your question: go Dogs. I believe the Dogs can run the table and do it again. And this past championship was for me in honor of Larry Munson, who would have been yelling his brains.
What a great broadcast!
He'd have been yelling his brains out in Indianapolis. But Scott Howard is one of my favorites to listen to.
Yes.
So, and thank God for Learfield Sports.
I go back to Vince Dooley. I got to meet Vince when he recruited me back in the paleontology era.
Mm-hmm.
And what a class act he was. And I'm a big Mark Richt fan, and I'm praying for him going through what he's going through right now.
Yeah.
And Georgia has had a pretty damn good football program over the last 35 years. And I got to tell you, when they went out and got Kirby Smart, that was one of the smartest things they ever did. And between the hedges, baby, in Athens, Georgia, it doesn't get much better than that for football.
That's one of my bucket lists. That's one of my bucket list places.
You got to come up to a Penn State game too.
Done.
Okay. You've never seen tailgate like Penn State. There are 300,000 people around the stadium, but it only holds 107,000.
It only holds 107.
I mean,
so
people just come for the atmosphere and the scream. And I mean, they start on Thursday night and go all the way till Sunday morning and clear it on out. Yeah.
Yep. Speaking of Larry Munson, our inaugural call of the night honors Larry Munson.
Buck back, third down on the 8. In trouble. Got a block behind him. Going to throw on a run. Complete to the 25. To the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 40. Lindsey's got 45, 50. 45, 40. Run, Lindsey. 25, 20, 50, 10, 5. Lindsey stop. Lindsey stop. Lindsey stop.
And then he delivered the faint.
One of my best friends.
I'm going to let this roll because
we just got one.
There's Vince.
Well,
there he is.
I can't believe it. 92 yards, and Lindsey really got in the foot race. I broke my chair. I came right through it.
And Bob does a lot of work with broadcasters down at the University of Georgia. He did NBA for years. WTBS, a great guy. And he works with a lot of kids, gets them opportunities in broadcasting. And he's had dinner over the years, probably 50 times with Larry Munson. And he always talks about the passion that exudes out of him. And, that's part of college football. People don't understand that. Auburn had a great broadcaster. Part. The old Trojans, we had a guy named Tom Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Kelly used to say, AD dots the I. And it's student body left, baby.
Student body. One of my favorites is a fellow I met when I first got into broadcasting in 1996, and that's the current voice of the Wildcats, the one and only Dave Ennett. I had so much fun working with him. And then in 2000, when I lived in Minnesota, we'll do a double play on the call of the night, Dave Ennett delivered this present for me.
It's going to be student body right. Tip drill.
Sid Gilman used to call it the Big Red.
3 seconds left. Hustock ready. Has the ball. Rolls to the right. Looking downfield. Sets up and heaves it towards the right side of the end zone. It's going to be jump ball. Tipped in the air. Oh! It's caught. Touchdown. The Wildcats win. Sam Simmons caught the deflected pass.
Sam Simmons, Zach Hustock, and that
I always liked Glenn Mason. He was a good coach.
Yeah. Well, he was disappointed that day, but it's week one is here. Week one is here. I'm looking forward to some great television and radio broadcasts. See, week 0 just whet my appetite. when I had a chance to hear the folks at Western Kentucky call their game against Austin Peay. What games are you guys looking forward to? Let us know. We're getting all our social media together. All that will be released Labor Day week. And Artie, I've had a blast. I can't wait to really improve this show.
By the way, I'm celebrating my 65th birthday down in Cabo next week. So I'm going to have to, we're not going to be able to pull it off this next week, but I'll be back in time for the week after show.
Good.
And
you enjoy.
I don't get many opportunities to get out and have a good time, and
right.
The compression of time seems to be happening.
Well, I got my friend Chris Dietz in the bullpen standing by. He'll sub for you while you celebrate your birthday. And my man, I hope you have an absolutely fabulous birthday. And thank you for this.
I love doing this, by the way, and you're the best.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, man. I mean, when you suggested to me that we put a show together, no brainer. Absolutely a no brainer. And we're live on Facebook. We're live on the Snowman in the Morning YouTube channel, as well as the SDM Sports Network channel and the SDM Sports Radio channel. So if you're taking us on the go, you can tune in to this show. Chris Dietz will sub for Artie next week, or I may fly solo. Just depends on schedule. But we'll be back next week, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Artie, have a fabulous birthday, my friend. I really appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you in 2 weeks' time.
God bless you. God bless everybody out there.
We're out of here, folks. Thanks for watching the AB College Football Show. We'll be back next week. God bless everybody.
All right, here we go. 4th and 18 for the Tigers. Here's your ball game. Nick Marshall stands in, steps up, going to throw downfield, just a home run ball, and it is tipped up. And Lewis got it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Touchdown, Auburn. Touchdown, Auburn. A miracle in Jordan Hare. A miracle in Jordan Hare. 73 yards, and the Tigers, with 25 seconds to go, lead 43-38.
It's over there. 3 wide outs at the top of the picture. Stewart with time. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Touchdown. Caught by Westbrook for a touchdown. Incredible.
Stock ready, has the ball, rolls to the right, looking downfield, sets up and heaves it towards the right side of the end zone. It's going to be jump ball, into the air. Oh! It's caught! Touchdown! The Wildcats win! Caught the deflected pass! Unbelievable!
Ewan going to go back to throw the ball. Sets up, looks, throws toward the corner of the end zone. And it's intercepted! Intercepted! They're not down the ball! Down to the 35! The 40! Kenny Wheaton going to score! Kenny Wheaton is going to score! 20! Touchdown! Touchdown! Kenny Wheaton on the interception!
Here we go. Here's your ball game, folks, as Rudy takes the snap. He drops straight back, has some time. Now he scrambles away from one hit. Looks, uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there.